Welcome to the Ingleside Reviews, Innovators Unveiled. We're thrilled to take you on a monthly journey into the minds behind the most cutting-edge products hitting the market today. From the coolest gadgets lighting up your Instagram feeds to groundbreaking services revolutionizing our daily lives, we're here to spotlight the innovations and, more importantly, the innovators. So gear up for an energetic and informative ride as we delve deep into the stories, the challenges, and the triumphs of the creative geniuses shaping our future. This is Ingleside Reviews, Innovators Unveiled. And now your host, A.D. Edwards.
Welcome to another episode of Ingleside Reviews, Innovators Unveiled. I'm your host, A.D. Edwards, and today we have an incredible guest joining us, John Wayne S. III. He's an incredible, trailblazing filmmaker and producer and an entrepreneur whose career spans over 2 decades in the entertainment industry. From directing award-winning films to producing music videos for international artists, John has made his mark as a creative visionary and as a resilient entrepreneur. In this episode, we'll dive deep into his inspiring journey, uncover the lessons he's learned along the way, and explore how he turned challenges into opportunities. So whether you're an aspiring creator, a seasoned entrepreneur, or someone in need of a motivational boost, you won't want to miss his insights and his experience that he has to share with us. So grab a notebook, get ready to be inspired, and let's unveil the innovator within John Wayne S. III. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, AD. I appreciate it. I'm always humble when people allow me on their platform, so I thank you once again.
Yes, I've been waiting for this interview for quite some time, actually. I've known you for some years, and I'm very familiar with some of the work that you've done. And when I think of the entrepreneurs that I've known over time, you're certainly one of the entrepreneurs that come to mind. So I want to ask some questions that I think would be very encouraging to the audience, especially those who are entrepreneurs, but they want to get more into the entertainment industry, something like movies, directing and producing, things of that nature. John, what inspired you to pursue a career in filmmaking and storytelling?
Well, that was not my initial vision in life to do that. I wanted to study medicine. I wanted to study going to geriatrics. When I was going to University of Illinois in Chicago, I think it was like the summer before I had to start figuring out what medical school I was going to go to. This production manager called me and said I had left a message on an answering machine about working on this indie movie. And I was like, no, I didn't. She's like, yes, you did. And at the time, I was a manager of this parking garage, and I had just lost my job. So I was getting unemployment. So it was for a first assistant director position. I figured, it seemed interesting. I'll go, what I really got to lose. So I go in there and talk with the first assistant director. I had like a suit and tie on. I was all dressed up. And about 5 minutes into the conversation, he realized I couldn't help him do nothing because I knew nothing about films. So she called me back and said, I can't give you that job, but I can give you a job in the art department as a production assistant. She said I was shooting 6 days a week for like 6 weeks straight and 16 hours a day. And the pay was $50 a week. And I said, yes. But the way the universe works is nothing just ever happens. The movie was called Scenes for the Souls, directed George Tillman's first film out of film school. He had won an Academy Award for a student film, which I didn't know. I was just working on something. And I went to work on that. After I worked in, I met another guy who didn't go to film school either. He went to like this community workshop for directing. And so I was producing and production managing, and he was directing while we were doing music videos in Chicago. And during that time, when people were doing music videos, now people do music videos all over the country, but back then it was in New York or LA. There was no middle America doing music videos. So we started doing music videos in Chicago.
Wow. Okay. So you kind of stumbled into it. Someone called you and you didn't even, you probably took a job from someone else, John, but that's another story. So let me ask.
No, that job was for me.
It was for you. Well, since you had aspirations of going into the medical field, can you share the moment when you realized that this was your calling? Because going to a movie set for the first time, that you still don't know if that's what you want to do. But when do you realize, or can you remember when you said, wow, this is something I really want to do?
When I was in the third grade, they don't really do this too much now, but they'll have like a popular song, and the kids go on the stage and they say, "What you want to be when you grow up?" This particular time, our popular song was the Stylistics. People make the world go round. And so I got my mother bought me like this little Indiana Jones hat, and I had like a slate. And when it got to me, I said, I want to be a film producer. Years passed, I wasn't thinking about that. That was nowhere near what I wanted to do. I was sitting in a van doing working on a music video, doing some paperwork, and I remembered me in the assembly program was in third grade. And at that moment, I realized that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, because there's no way in the world. Most people who go to film school, don't have experiences like that. But I remembered the third grade wanted to be a film producer, and I was doing exactly what it is. So after that, nothing else really mattered. My focus was to do that, good or bad or whatever came. I knew that that's where I wanted to be.
Interesting. So you're working on this movie, Scenes for the Soul. How did your early experiences working in movies like that shape your approach to the entertainment industry as a whole early on?
Well, because I didn't have any kind of formal training, I really didn't know what to expect. And so you end up being naive about stuff, or you don't complain about stuff. I'm just going through the process. I'm experiencing it, and I'm doing what I need to do at that particular moment. So I didn't really have any bad habits or anything, preconceived notions. All I know is that this seemed right. It seemed good. It seemed like a good space for me to be in. When you're like in your 20s, you're trying to figure out where you are, where you want to go. You need to experience so many things, but just the universe allowed me to experience that, and it was kind of like mind opening, saying, okay, this may be something that I could do.
Now, of course, when you set out on a path, you're going to encounter some challenges, and all entrepreneurs do. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced while you were building your career, and how did you overcome them?
Well, because I didn't go to film school, I really didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, I didn't really have any mentors or nobody who would like really kind of help me and say, "Hey, don't do this, don't go down this particular path, or go do this." And it was at the time when there were not a lot of black filmmakers, period. And so when you hatch on to somebody, or you meet somebody who's kind of doing what you're doing, you kind of go with them. But I really just didn't know, and so I was really learning as I went through. I started off as production assistant, eventually went to production coordinating, production managing, to eventually producing. But I just really, a lot of stuff was just kind of like just learning in the moment. When I was young, I didn't have no responsibilities. It was just me. So I could, not do something, or I can go without something, because I was trying to experience, try to learn, learn the craft.
So when you have a dream, an entrepreneurial goal in mind, it's an advantage to have a mentor. You just described you starting out in this new industry that's new for you, rather, and you really didn't have a mentor or formal training. So, of course, at times you're going to have some questions about if you're doing things the right way or the best way. How do you handle self-doubt or criticism, especially when working on these creative projects? Because when creative projects come along, there's not a cookie cutter or an exact science. So when you're dealing with creative projects, once again, how do you, at least early on, how did you handle the self-doubt or the criticism from others?
So at the beginning, you're not really being that creative, because I'm the guy who getting the coffee and going, to pick up stuff. I don't really have to be creative. I just know I got to be able to follow instructions and communicate effectively and be visible, so people can call you and say, "Hey, come over and do that." I worked on one of the when I was first started getting into production. I was a production assistant. I worked on quite a bit of R. Kelly music videos. But I remember once I worked on this one video with Changing Faces. He had this group called Changing
Yes, I
Faces.
remember that group.
I think the song was Stroke You Up. And so we were shooting I don't know what suburb it was, but the house that we were shooting at was the woman was the heir to the Swipe soda. They had like about 5 dining rooms in that house. It was really and it was all set and everything. And so we get in there and they doing this where they had the tigers in the shadows going back and forth. They had, it's amazing. It was an R. Kelly video. And they wanted me to go back to the city, which was like an hour and a half way to get he wanted some chicken. R. Kelly wanted some chicken. And I can't remember what it was, a black chicken place. And I'm thinking to myself, man, it's like an hour and a half away. So I drove an hour and a half there to get the chicken. And so it's 3 hours to get chicken. And I think they probably ate 2 pieces of it because they said it was cold. But it took me 3
And
hours.
you were the production assistant at the time?
Yeah, I was a production assistant. So I'm learning. So you do enough of that and people see that you are dependable, then you progressively move up. They give you more opportunities and responsibilities. And so being creative didn't happen to years later until I was in a position to try to create things. Before I was doing a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes, I also acted. I had been in a lot of commercials and some movies and a lot of different things. And I remember I went to this audition for ABC After School Special. I'm old. The ABC After School Special, and I did my monologue and everything. And the casting director, who I know to this day, when I got finished, he told me that was good, but you're not black enough.
Really?
Yeah, she told me I wasn't black enough. You telling a 20-year-old, what does that mean? It was very confusing. I had to really go through a lot of soul searching after that. But eventually you figured I'm black 24 hours a day. Nobody can define my blackness. But my point to that is that when she said that, I said to myself, when I get into a situation to where I can control what's happening, I'm gonna put myself in stuff and nobody can tell me I can't do it. And early on, if you look at my music videos and films and other stuff I did very early on, I put myself in everything because nobody could tell me I couldn't. I created opportunity for myself when people were not listening and looking. And a lot of times, young filmmakers, they're waiting for somebody to come save them. I've been waiting for somebody to save me for a very long time, and they just not coming. They're not coming, And so I have to, even to this day, create opportunity for myself to speak things into existence and be assertive enough to make things go in a certain direction.
Yeah, you can't wait for opportunity to come knocking at your door. You have to go out and get it any kind of way you can, and that's good advice for all entrepreneurs. Now, keep it in mind that even though working in the movie industry, the music industry, producing, directing, things of this nature, they're very creative outlets, but it's also a business. You have to get money. You have to get things paid for. Now, as a founder of your own production company, because later on you founded your own production company, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to start their own businesses?
So just a little bit of foundation of me going through the process of actually starting a company and saying I want to do that. In the process of just my journey in life, I went to go work for a producer in Chicago by the name of Steve Silcurley. Steve had worked with everybody from Madonna to Michael Jackson, and he was starting a management company. And he wanted me to come on as a publicist, and I was like, I really didn't know what to do about that. But he felt I could do it. We agreed, and I ended up staying 3 years. Eventually become the director of international A&R, running his office and agency in UK and Japan. Now, the thing to that is when he decided he didn't want to do the management anymore. Because of him, I knew everybody at the labels who commissioned music videos. I knew everybody who worked. I knew people working publishing. I knew all the people because I had to deal with and talk while doing stuff for him. So when I went back to decided I'm going to go back to doing music videos, when I called a label, they would take my telephone calls and they would let me do music videos. Not because I think I'm a good music video director, but
the relationships you formed. Because of the relationships you formed.
Yes. Although labels, streaming platforms, and studios, although they traffic in creativity, they're corporate entities. These people got PTO, they got 401k, they got benefits, and they don't want to do anything that's going to mess up their their job or get them to lose their job. And so they gave me opportunity, and I came back with something that they actually can use. So it was the foundation of my relationships that allowed me to say, hey, I can go and and start a company. And at the beginning, just like most businesses, I wasn't making a whole bunch of money, even though I come from film and people were spending $16,000 to $20,000 for music videos. It was still a process. Film is expensive, and so it is a process. And so because I had never had a business before, I hadn't really taken a business class. Although I'm a very quick learner, I'm a big reader, especially when I was younger. I read a lot. And so I would read stuff. I would go to the library and I would pull books and read. Like now you can just go on the internet and kind of listen to video. But back then
Yeah,
it
you have
wasn't
to,
that. You have to read a lot of stuff to try to figure out. So
exactly.
I just figured stuff out. I was just a person who figured things out. And so um and I did a lot of stuff the wrong way. I made mistakes and I tried to course correction as fast as I possibly could. But sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't. But over the time, I've been self-employed almost 30 years, and you just kind of figure stuff out, and you figure out who to ask for stuff, what person in this department is in charge of that, instead of just cold calling. I mean, back in the day, I used to do cold calling people, and you can probably get some stuff done. But now it's there's so many gatekeepers, you have to really know who exactly to ask on how to do
Now
stuff.
you before, I don't know what order, but I do know from my research that you also directed television commercials. Now you had the relationships in the music industry to go into the music videos. How did you start doing television commercials?
So I've directed about 200 music videos over my career from variety artists from all over the world. And I wanted to do commercials because back then that was the entry into doing film or television. You want to do commercials. So I'm doing music videos from the commercials. So when I went to the agencies and said, hey, I want to do a commercial, they told me music video directors can't do commercials. Commercials, 30, 60 seconds to 90 seconds. Music videos 3 minutes long. You can't think in that space.
Really?
And so, like most challenges I got, I said, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. So I sat down and just thought and thought. And so I went and sought out companies who were seen to be doing well, but they didn't have any visual representation. So during that time, the telecommunications had just deregulated. It became a utility. So telephone became a utility, which means that people can now have these businesses. It wasn't managed. It wasn't like big corporations. Like anybody can start a telephone company if they just go through the process, the regulatory process. So there was this company called MTI, Midwest Telecommunications. Back in the day, I'm dating myself, but back in the day, most of the telephone companies were owned by my Bell, the Illinois Bells, the Ohio
Mm-hmm.
Bells, New York Bells. And if you didn't pay your telephone bill and they turned your phone off, you just didn't have no phone. That was just it. You just didn't have no phone. So when they deregulated, it allowed other people to provide service for you. And so MTI was providing service of people who couldn't normally get telephone, but they would pretty much paying like
I
prepaid
remember
telephone.
that.
So you pay for 30 days. Yeah, you pay for 30 days. You pay your $29 or whatever it may be. And if you need to get back in before the 30 days is up, so you can keep having service. So they were doing really good. They were doing really massive, but they didn't have any commercials. So I went to them. And back during that time, there was nothing on the internet. So I used to carry this tote this television around with the VHS deck
A
in the
little
front.
portable TV.
So I would tote it around. Yes, I would turn it on because I didn't have time for you to be like, I'm gonna look at your stuff later. No, we're gonna look at it now. you know. So I would take it with me. I put it on the counter. I sat and talked to the guy. His name was EK. I put the tape in. I'm thinking like, I'm showing him all my music videos and everything. And when it got finished, he looked at me and he said, if you want this business, you're gonna have to sell it to me. I was like, oh my God, okay. So I went through the whole process about what I wanted to do, and he's like, okay, fine. So he gave it to me. He said, let me do one commercial. Commercial was successful. They was getting business hand over foot. And so he came back to me and we did multiple commercials. Then I went to met another lady who had a tea, a black businesswoman who had a tea in the local grocery store. And I went to her about doing the commercial. So what I did was I just went to people I felt like who had good representation and their product was in good space, but they didn't have any
Hmm.
visuals anywhere for them to see. So after I did that, I went back to the agencies and I was like, okay, look, I can do commercials. And they said, okay, fine, we'll let you
Well,
do
that's good you took
commercials.
that approach, because when it comes to entrepreneurship, they said the best thing you want to do is look for a void to fill, something that people need
Yes,
and they may not even realize they need it. And here you are, they have
yes.
product, but they have no visuals. They're the prime candidates for commercials. So it was successful for you. Now, moving along into your career, how did you? Because now things are moving. You've done music videos. You've done some commercials. Now you with the agency. The agency knows you do commercials, and you want to keep moving. But how did you balance the creative and the business side of these commercials, of these videos, and eventually film? Because it's not all creative, it's also got to be profitable, because if it's not profitable, you don't stick around.
Yeah. So it definitely is a balancing act. Trying to be the bill collector and the creative person with the client is really hard. When I started, it's like I got this great idea, but this how much it costs. That's that's never the great. That always kind of interferes with creativity. So I had to learn to balance it because it was I needed to do it. I needed to understand that part. I needed to know that without this part, there's that part. And honestly, as a creative, and I tell young guys, it's the young filmmakers today that you the more you understand about producing, the better you can be as a director. And this is the reason why. So there's a process when you come up with an idea. So a writer may come up with an idea and he has this brilliant idea. He puts it on paper. He takes it to a director and the director says, oh, I like this. I see your vision. They go take it to a producer and the producer says, you can't do this, and this. The producer's job is to ensure that the project gets done within a specified budget and is delivered to whatever the client is. So they kind of pipe down, they give you reality of what it is. When you understand all all three of those roles, it allows you to write better. So I write to budget better. I know exactly as a producer how much I'm going to spend and how far I can push my ideas or creative ways of doing this without it busting my budget. As a director, I can keep my ideas within a realistic time frame and also make decisions about how long we spend on something, uh, long or short, and how I'm going to approach it based off of what the budget we're spending. As a producer, I understand where everything is at. I know what the buttons that had to be pushed. I know how much we have, and I know a lot of parameters. So I'm walking around with all the
Hmm.
information. That's a very
So
hard
the
thing to do.
writer, he wants this big explosive scene, and the producer's like, we can't afford to blow up 3 or 4 cars, and so we got to figure out another way to
Yes.
do this to get the impact without busting up our budget.
Yeah. So it's like it's the producer kind of like pipes down the reality of what it is that you're trying to do. And the thing about it is, and I tell people this when I work on projects all the time, people only know what you show them. So although you may have written that it was going to be a blow up car, if I find a way to effectively communicate that same thing, they're not going to be upset with me because they have no idea. People only know the results of the decisions. They don't know the choices you have. And so you present them with something creative. They're not in the comments like, man, why did we blow up 3 cars? They don't know
Yes.
that. And so as long as creatives understand that, and ultimately at the end of the day is to get a piece, having something on your computer is not going to
Yes.
benefit you. Having something in your mind that you're dreaming about is not going to benefit anybody. You have to find a way to effectively take it out of your mind, put it on a piece of paper, share it with other people, find other people in the collaborative process of filmmaking or just producing in general to get it done. It only benefits the world if you can bring it to fruition. Being on your computer does not benefit anybody.
Agreed. So, John, you had mentioned that you were able to get in the music industry because of the connections and relationships you had. Eventually, you were able to go to the agencies with commercials because of the name you had built. So, when you got into the music industry to do videos, you were the brand, your relationship. So, when you, as a business person, and this is for those out there who start their companies, whatever it may be, when we go to the movies today, or when we know that Miramax or DreamWorks or Disney is doing something, we pretty much can understand what it's going to be because of their brand. So when you were going to the music videos, people knew you were the brand. At what point do you think it's important that an entrepreneur start to be concerned about their brand, or what strategies should they have to try to build a competitive brand, or should they wait later? What's your thoughts on branding when you're small is what I'm getting at.
So, because we live in a social age, when people first start off, when they first come to me, especially because I do a lot of consulting, you have to really figure out what the brand you're gonna do. So, my company is Londyn Town Pictures. My name is John Wayne S. III. What am I going to focus on? What is going to be the brand? I mean, I got to have a company and a company name, but what is going to be the focus? At the beginning, that's a hard thing because you don't know what thing is going to catch on, and so you have to make a decision. And so it's almost kind of like when people do movies or TV shows and they go get a Instagram handle for that one
Yes,
particular
I've
show.
seen that.
I usually tell people, unless they're like a big entity with a whole bunch of people, I tell them not to do that. You focus on either one thing, either your name or you focus on your brand of the name of your company, because it's a lot to try to manage that because you're managing them totally differently, and so keeping all your social media the same way is important. You shouldn't have little Kiki and Bobby Joe and nobody be able to find you. You need to have your social media all consistently around. So when they type in Google, when they type in John Wayne S. III on Google, they're going to get every single thing about me. If they type in Londyn Town Pictures, they're going to get everything about Londyn Town Pictures because it's about being consistent. You have to make a decision at the beginning of your career. I know no matter how small you are, what is going to be your focus? Either the company or you as the brand. And that is a pretty individual based off of what you're doing. That's a very individual type question for an individual to ask. For me, I focus a lot on John Wayne S. III because I can change the company name. We can change and we can go in a different direction. Because when I first started, my name of the company was JWS Productions.
Mm-hmm.
So we rebranded it to Londyn Town Pictures years ago, but I can change it. But my name, who I am, would always be the same. So I'm known as being a producer, a writer, and director. And so I focus on that. And so that is an individual question of each individual person, a creative or just business. Oh, what are you going to focus on? I mean, obviously, if you're selling a widget, then you need to focus on that if that's what your focus is. It's less about you per se.
So this is
But
something that
if
the
you,
person really should think about while they're in the formative
yes,
stages before they even launch. What are they going to focus on?
yes, you need to figure that out. And then sometimes, just sometimes, the way the universe works, it figures it
True.
out for you.
True.
It figures it out for you, And so, as much as you might be trying to run toward this particular thing, it has then branded you into this, and this is what you are. It's like Denzel Washington may have a production company name, but we don't know what the name. Most people don't know what the name of his production
Right.
company is. They know who Denzel Washington is because he's a brand by himself.
Yes.
So it's those things that you have to like make a determination early on what you want to do.
So as we know, anytime, well, not anytime. In most cases, when you start a business, it's not just you alone. So when it comes to leadership and teamwork, even though you're in the entertainment industry and someone may be in a restaurant industry, hospitality industry, when they're starting out, leadership and teamwork is very important. What qualities do you look for when building a team for your projects?
So honestly, I look for people that I feel like who are going to think outside the box. As a producer, I don't like to fix problems with money.
Explain.
And so in other words, I'm gonna give you an example. I was working on this one film, and for some reason, the caterer didn't come in the morning time to bring the breakfast. So the production manager went to this one particular restaurant, which is very expensive, and got all these breakfast tacos, which the crew loved it, but it like blew our budget for breakfast that particular day. It was just too much. Although she solved the problem, she solved it with money. Instead of trying to figure out another creative way of doing it or finding a lesser expensive restaurant,
Right,
you
right.
know, keeping all the things, you focus on one problem to fix that, but then you created other problems.
Yes, I understand now because when you're starting out, I have a friend who has a business, and his business practically has no debt, and he told me about this book. Actually, it's called Profit First. It's a great book, but the idea is if you don't basically you try to do without spending the money first because there's usually some way around the issue or problem that would be less as expensive than just putting money at it, because if you just put money at it, you're going to be out of your your funds. Like if you get an investor and
Yeah.
you say, oh, I'm flush with cash, and you're just paying for everything, that eventually runs out. I understand totally what you mean by that. So yeah, you can't just look for people to, yeah, because people that throw money at the problem is not really, they're solving the problem, but they're creating a whole new problem.
Yeah. The second thing I look for people that honestly that I can work with, that we have we're able to, we don't have to think alike, but we have to have a similar process in how we process information. Because if not, we'll be having this, just discontent all the time because we will never be, we never on the same page. So we need to be able to be on the same page to ensure that we can like come to a reasonable compromise position. Although that I am the leader, I cannot do this by myself, and so I have to be open to other people's ideas and ways of process information and how they, decide to do stuff. I have two other producers that I work with, and they don't always think the same way I think. But I have to step out of the way sometimes and let people do their job, and as long as it get done and it don't cost no more money, then I'm okay with it. So I let them do what they need to do, and kind of get out the way.
Okay, so how do you keep your team motivated and aligned with your vision? Because as a director and a producer, you may have one way of that you want things to go in, and you're leading this team as a director. How do you keep them in line uh, and motivated with the vision? Because, and the reason I'm asking this, John, is because not everyone's in the movie business, but people have all types of businesses out here, and sometimes the team that they put together may not be seeing what they're trying to get done.
Mhm. You have to find your people. I mean, that's really just the bottom line. You have to find your people, and that is a process. You're gonna go through a lot of people who just don't fit into the culture of what you're trying to do. And if as long as people understand that, okay, this is how we're doing stuff, we gonna go stuff about a certain process, and they willing to participate for the bigger good, then you're okay. If you got people who are being counteractive of what you're trying to do, and they have like counterproductive ideas, then they're not your people. And these people don't need to be on this team. You need people who feel comfortable speaking their mind, of saying, I think we should do this, and suggest them. But you also need to feel comfortable in their ability to say, hey, if they suggest certain things, that this is probably what we need to do. And that takes time. It takes time for me to know them and for them to know me. So if I give somebody an assignment, some busy work, they're going to go and do it without me thinking like, oh God,
Micromanaging.
I wonder if they did. Yeah, I don't want to have to do that. There's a lot of moving things in my business that I have to be focused on, and I can't micromanage people. If I tell somebody this is what I'm trying to do, I'm I'm hoping that because I trust them and they've proven trustworthy, that they are able to get close to what I'm trying to do. They don't have to be perfect, but at least close to. If I say I want a certain type of shirt and they come up with something slightly different, I know that they probably tried and they couldn't get
Right.
it. And so this is what they got me is the best that they could come up with, and we're gonna make it work because I trust them. But if I'm like, see this, and then I look over here and there's something else, like, well, I'm confused because I don't know if I trust you because you're not, we had a conversation and this is where we're trying to go to, and we
Yeah,
did something
makes
else.
sense. So staying motivated in times when things don't go the way you planned them? What keeps you motivated during difficult times when a project doesn't go as planned?
Life happens to everybody. If I can't take the bad, I don't deserve the good. And just the way it works. Sometimes people just want all the good stuff to happen to them, but nobody ever gets sunny days every day. Every now and then we get a rainy day. Sometimes it's storm, sometimes it snows, sometimes it hails. It's just the reality. So it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. And so you just got to stay focused on what you're trying to do. As long as you got a path that you're trying to stay on, and you see this, even if you fall off, you at least got a path or something to get back on. And that's what a lot of people, they don't have
Hmm.
paths. It's like writing. A lot of times when people start to write, they just start writing. And it's like, if you do that, you're going to end up anywhere. You need to have a structure. You need to have an outline of where you're trying to go. So at some point when it's like you're kind of teetering off, you kind of like, let me go back to this outline. Let me stay what the plan was. And so it's motivation is a being happy is a choice.
Yes.
You have to choose to be happy. E- Every time, every day is not good. I have bad days just like everybody else, but I'm choosing to be positive. I'm choosing to look at the brighter side. I'm choosing it. It's a choice. And sometimes people don't make the choice to be happy. They don't make the choice to be optimistic. They're choosing to feed into the negative of what's happening. It's happening. You can't do nothing about it. Now you need to kind of go and figure out how do we get on the other side.
Excellent, excellent advice. Because you can only control the internal, not the external. Yeah, good advice about that.
Yeah.
Now, are there any daily habits or routines that contribute to your success?
I don't really have a whole bunch of daily habits. I'm a pretty much a workaholic in some aspect, which is not necessarily good. But I do try to on most days I try to like really. I'm a list person, so I write down what I want to accomplish this particular day, either through my schedule or me writing a list. And me scratching off stuff on the list helps me see that I've accomplished stuff. And even if I don't get to everything, the next day I can take that list and write those things out and get done and write the next stuff. It helps me focus. It helps me ensure that I get all the things done because a lot of times I'm working on so many different things, I forget. I forget certain things for clients, or I forget what I need to do with certain projects. I forget things. It just happens. But I try to really stay on the list and scratch things off on a daily basis to ensure that I don't forget at least 90% of the stuff.
Okay, that's good. Good things to know. Now you've done. Now we've gone along in your career, continuing on the timeline here. We've talked about the music videos. We talked about the commercials. How did you get into films? What's your first film you did? And tell me a little bit about the backstory on that. Like, what city was it done in, and what was it about? And I also want to know what the uh, latest project that you did too. But let's talk about your first film first.
So my first widely distributed movie was Red All Over. Red All Over was about gun violence, but I had did two other movies before that. I relate to them as the ones we don't talk about. They were very learning. I learned a lot about myself, even to this day.
so,
Every time I
so
do a
they were
project, I learn a
educational
lot about
for you.
myself. Yeah, they were. I those the ones back in the day when I would like sell on VHS. I would be on the corner.
Can
I
we
would
find
sell
these on
stuff on
IMBD?
VHS.
No.
No, you cannot. No, no, they don't. And the funny thing, one of my writing partners, we be talking and I'm doing interviews. She'd be like, "Oh, you forgot about blah 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 movie." I said, "Girl, please stop bringing that up."
That's
I'm
in the
kind of forget
past.
it. But no, yeah, it was a long time ago. But I learned a lot from it. I learned. So after doing those movies, I wanted to do something that was a little bit more encapsulated, something that was going to be bigger to make a bigger impact. And so I had done music videos. I get through that trying to convince people to let me do music videos, and I got to the point convince people to let me do commercials, and I wanted to do film features. So when I went to go try to do features and to get institutional financing, they told me that you can't get it because you need what they call at that time a completion bond. Completion bond is like an insurance policy for investors, especially when you get institutional finance and say that in the event that you don't finish, they come and finish the project because ultimately they can't sell something that's not
Okay.
finished. So it's an insurance policy. But you can't get a completion bond. You couldn't get a completion bond if you never done a movie, but you got to do a movie to get a completion bond. So it was
Like
like
a
one of those
catch
things. So,
22.
okay, what can I do? It is catch 22. What do you do? So I sat down and I just figured, I said, what can I do? Because I can't imagine. I'm a firm believer in whatever issue I'm having. I am not the only person who had this problem. I'm not the first person. So there's a solution to it. So what I did was I went to media companies and record labels. Say, I tell you, I would pose this to them. And this is back before all the streaming and everything. I said, if you want to get if you want to get a new, I can show you how to get a new set of consumers, fans that normally will listen to your music. I can show you how to do that.
And they were intrigued, I'm sure.
Because a lot of times
they were intrigued when they heard this.
Yes, they were intrigued. They were intrigued. A lot back during this time. This is back when you would go to Walmart and they had that $5 or $10 bin worth of movies. So you just pick the movie up and you read the back of it and you say, okay, I'm a bad. So I figured that I can, if I take some music and put a social issue around it and put it into a movie, you're selling the movie and you're selling the music. And so now you got a whole new consumer base of people who buy your music that traditionally wouldn't do it. A lot of people thought it was a great idea. A lot of people said, man, that's like a really good idea, but they didn't understand it. And so they wouldn't commit to it. They just wouldn't do it. They was like, I like it, but I don't know how that works. And I don't know how I can get my money back. I just don't know. And so they would just pass. So I found somebody just through the, just life. And they didn't understand either, but they was willing to take the ride with me. And we went on and did the movie. So we did Red All Over. Red All Over, when I finished the movie, I went through a divorce. Divorce is a very debilitating thing. And I couldn't really do nothing. I couldn't really focus on it. So for 2 years, that movie sat on a hard drive.
I can see that. I've been through a divorce too. It's been said that when you go through a divorce, it's almost like losing a loved one in death. The emotional impact it has on a person, and you're like a zombie sometimes.
Yeah. And all my friends, all producer friends say, you need to hurry put that movie out before it get dated, blah, blah. And I had a couple of distributors come to me, give me offers, and I just like sat on it because I couldn't get myself together. So eventually I got myself together and I went to a distributor. I took the deal and I went on the side. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea, what response people would do. This is a movie about gun violence. It's about both sides of the gun violence issue. They don't do too many. A lot of times when they do movies about gun violence, it's always one-sided where the person who shot it and make them out of demonized. But most young people don't get up and look for a gun and go shoot nobody. That's not normally how people are. And so
how did they get to this point?
Story. Yeah, how did they get there? The person who got shot, what was they doing there? Like I try to encompass that particular story of what we're doing. So we got some music, we got a social issue, and we did a movie around it. So me and my partners, writing partner Seth, we came up with the idea of Red All Over. And it was successful. I mean, you could see that movie to this day, pretty much everywhere. Just Google it. You can see it, and it did exactly what it was. But as time went on, I realized that I had to make adjustments about the stuff that I did shoot. When you're young, creative, especially in film and things of that sort, you run around with all these ideas about what you think. Everybody thinks that the next best thing is Swiss cheese. I'm the new, Tim Burton. I got this idea that it revolution everything. Everybody believes that. And so you run around for years, especially young filmmakers, with these ideas and don't understand why nobody is buying into these ideas, why nobody won't do this. They need to do this because this is going to make them money and it's going to blow me up. And so what I realized over time, is that people buy stuff through trends, but people invest and put money into things that they feel affinity for. So if I have a horror movie, I need to find somebody who likes horror stuff, not somebody who likes drama, because they're never going to do it because they don't understand it. And so what I did was I started to look for projects that people were doing, although it may not necessarily been my idea per se, but I have characters that in my mind that I've created and scenarios that I can
Hmm.
put inside their thing. And so I'm getting the release I need from a creative. From the business aspect, I'm giving what they need. Everybody's
Right.
a
Because
win-win situation.
if I want to work with sports movies, no matter how good your comedy that has to do with the business world is, it's not going to interest me because
No,
that's not my
it's
interest.
not.
So that makes sense. So what's the latest project you can you talk about the latest project you're working on?
You mean the one I'm working on, the one who
The
just
one that
came
just
out?
came out.
So, False Prophets just came out on the 7th,
Okay,
and
I didn't know if it was
False
released
Prophet
yet,
is
so
about.
that's why I was like, can you talk about it? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yeah, it is available. It's about a woman who defrauds, who pretty much creates a Ponzi scheme in her father's church, and she steals millions of dollars from the people in the community and the people at the church. And so, it stars Shawnee Shea and Fancy, the actress Fancy Jones, and Adina Howard is in
And
this movie too.
where can we watch this at? Where can we enjoy this movie? Is it a certain streaming platform or
Yeah, you can look at it on
okay?
Amazon and you can look at it on Tubi. It'll be on hopefully next month. It'll be on Peacock, and it's on Hoopla too. So it eventually within the next. It just came out, so you got to go through the whole
Okay.
process of where you put the movie at. But in the next couple of months, it pretty much be everywhere. But right now, it's on Tubi and Amazon and on Hoopla. But if you just go to falseprophetsfilm.com, it keeps you up to date to see all that. You also allow your opportunity to stream the soundtrack. Adina Howard did a new song that's on the soundtrack for the movie. Beautiful movie song. When people hear this song, they don't even gonna realize that this is not t-shirt in your panties. This is a song. It's an inspirational song. It really shows her voice and her range of what she can do. It's a really good song. So I'm hoping that streaming soundtrack, along with the other artists from Calvin Kosher, Rosie Bush, Window, the artist, it's a lot of other artists that are on there. But Adina Howard is the bigger name, and so that is usually the draw for people to go listen
And
to it.
you kind of mentioned you're working on something now. Can you talk about that, or is that under wraps for a minute?
Yeah, I got a film called Hard Holiday. It's a Christmas film that I'm going to do next month. It's about a woman who used to be a really up and coming singer, and through drugs and alcohol and some other things, she just couldn't get to that particular point. She ended up cheating on her best friend with his boyfriend and eventually having some kids with him. And so
Drama.
she just kind of put herself in like a yeah, she put herself in a really bad situation. But just like with anything else, life
Right.
goes on. So her story is about life goes on. Those happen. She had to raise her kids and she had to do the things she did. But what happens is about a couple of months before Christmas, she loses her job. And so she been holding on and putting all the pieces together and just kind of surviving. And then this happens. And so, which happens to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people. What are you going to do? So in her case, she ended up doing a little drugs. She ended up having to go to the rehabs. But she got to the point to where she kind of really understood who she was and took responsibility for the things she did and through all that she was able to get back on the stage and start singing again. So it's a story about redemption. It's a story about life that happens to everybody, and it's not about what happens to you, it's how you react to it, because a lot of people, they don't react very good, they just kind of get stuck. And so it's about getting out of that point and moving
Okay.
forward with your life.
So you've done a wide range of things, John, over the years, and you're still doing things that's creative and different in each aspect of your work. How do you want your work to be remembered, and what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I did an interview some years ago, and this the reporter asked me, why am I a filmmaker? And most of the time there is a I have a canned response to that, because that's a question that I get asked often. But this particular day, the universe put something different on my heart. When they asked me, why do you want to be a filmmaker? I said, because I want to live forever.
Great answer.
I live forever through my work. I've lived forever through, obviously, through my children. But when people see my work 100 years from now, they get an insight into what I'm thinking. I look at old black and white movies all the time. And I'm like, these people are on the screen. I see the decisions the directors made. I see the decisions that the producers and the writers made. And I can get a somewhat idea of why they did that. What was the purpose for doing it? And I want to be able to, you don't have to agree with everything I do. You don't have to like every single movie that I've done. But I do implore you to have an opinion about it. And I'm willing to listen to your opinion, even if you don't like it or not. You know, that is what I hope to leave to my legacy and to future generations.
Understood. Now, what advice would you give someone starting out in the creative industry, like filmmaking?
Be open. A lot of times, don't be so. It's like when I get artists who come to me, music artists who come to me, they want me to help them with their career. I don't manage anymore because I don't have the patience. But they will come to me and want to. They're like, okay, John, I want to take my career somewhere else. What do you think? What do you think I'll do? And I said, well, I like to manage expectations. So I asked them, what is it that you see yourself in 6 months? And so they come up with this. This actually happened once. This artist said that they wanted to be on BT, they wanted to be on tour. This came with this whole laundry list of stuff. And when I got finished, I said to them, that's possible, but not probable. Let's focus on some stuff like, let's get your publishing together. Let's copyright some of your songs. Let's set up your business structure. Because what happens a lot of times, and I get this a lot of time with artists too, artists would go and they take their songs to the radio station. The radio station is playing and playing, and they're trying to figure out why they're not getting paid. It's like going to a job. When you get a job and they say you're hired, they give you a stack of paper. And they say, you got to fill this paper out, because if you don't fill this paper out, you're not going to get no check. Music is the same way. Although stuff is digital, the same aspect works. You have to do the work. You have to set the foundation. And a lot of times in businesses and in general, people don't do the foundation. There are some things that I did a long time ago that didn't set necessarily the foundation, that later on I had to do it. It cost me more because I had to go fix it.
Right.
Versus having that, okay, this is what you need to do. And a lot of times people don't want to do that because it's boring.
Right.
The business part is boring. It's tedious. I don't have time for that. I don't have the patience for it. So either one or two things you're going to do. You either pay for it now or you're going to pay for it later. And if you pay for it later, it's going to cost more. So let's just try to do that stuff. And so I tell artists all the time to try to be open to the process and also do the paperwork. Do the paperwork. I've had movies come to me. People done movies and they've done no paperwork whatsoever. It's a very hard thing to convince people to sign something after they can see the finished product.
Right.
Very hard. It's like me saying that if I win the lottery, AD, I'm going to give you some money. You're like, okay, that's fine. I win $50 billion and I give you $100,000. You look at me crazy like, you only give me $100,000. Well, I did give you some money.
I would be grateful, John. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So you have to have that, like, let's have a discussion about what that means. And a lot of times people just don't want to do the paperwork. And if you don't do the paperwork, I just don't know how you're going to get paid. Honestly, I don't know how that works. Nobody's just going to be magically sending you checks.
So what's the most important lesson you've learned in your career so far?
I've learned to step back sometime, look at the bigger picture of stuff, of why people are doing stuff and what's people's motivations. If you can figure out what somebody's motivation or what they're doing, you'll be able to work better. Because I don't have a problem with if what my agenda is conflict. If we got conflicting agendas, as long as it don't conflict enough to where it keeps me or it keeps you from doing what you want to do. So if you got an agenda, what you're trying to do, and this is what my agenda, as long as they're going to conflict, we could probably do business. I'm pretty pragmatic about that. I don't want to do anything that's going to cause any harm or just going to cause some repercussions later on down the road. But if we can find a way to do it, it's just like with investors. If you come to me and you want to invest in a movie, it's beneficial to both of us. I'm getting the capital I need to do a certain project, and you're going to get the return on your money back. So it's something beneficial. But if it's working one way, it's like, I can't show you how you're going to get your money back. There's really no reason for you to actually do this because it's not beneficial. So as long as they work in tangent with each other, finding things that beneficial all parties, I think it will work.
Yeah, it's good. I see what you're saying. How do you see the entertainment industry evolving, and where do you see yourself within it, and within the next 10 years or so?
Well, like anything, stuff changes. I mean, I don't think it'll ever be a point where people want to look at movies and television now. The type of stuff and how things get made will change. Like, for example, with the invent of AI, I've seen some really great things in AI that I don't know if I will be able to be all into doing a movie that's 100% AI. I don't know, but it definitely does speed the process of getting stuff done. If I can go in the computer and create prompts on what I'm trying to do, and it can give me that thing to where I'm trying to be, we'll see. I remember when we went from doing film to video. I was very when I'm telling people like, no, we need to hold on to the film, but most people don't know the difference between film and video. If you look at it right, because they can't really tell the difference, so they don't really care. The consumer doesn't care. So really, it's going to be about what consumers are willing
Right.
to accept. Will they accept the whole AI movie, where it's 100% AI, or are they okay with just a little AI? It just really depends on what consumers will
So,
accept.
if you were to go back in time and talk to your younger self, and this young John is getting into this entertainment industry, advice would you give yourself?
Hmm. I remember, everybody has those crossroads in their life where they made decisions about stuff. I remember when I was doing music videos, and there used to be this book called the 911 music record label 911. They come out once a quarter and they have all the telephone numbers and fax of record labels all over the world. Everybody will list them, and then you go through that. So when I was doing music videos, I would say on Monday, how much money I want to make this week. And I would call hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
people, hundreds of labels. And my spill to them was that, look, how many music videos are you going to do this year? And they said, I'm going to do 7. I said, if you give me 3, I'm going to charge you the same for all 3 of them. There are some caveats to it, but you will know exactly how much you want to spend. And I would fax over a contract and they would wire me money. It always blew my mind away. I don't even know these people. They would just send me money. I ain't talking about like a couple thousand, like 10, 20, $30,000. They would wire money to me. And I got this. I sent a videotape out to, at the time, I didn't know who they were, to Cash Money. And the guy called me back and he's like, hey, we doing a lot of music videos here. And I saw your work. Maybe we could do something. He said, okay. He said, but I want to tell you this. We're not doing music videos on film. We're doing it on video. It was called e-film at the time. And I said, okay, all right, fine. I'm gonna talk to you. Like, I got the phone. It's like, I'm not doing no videos on video. Who this man? In
Yes.
myself, and I'm like, who he think he is? I'm wasting my time doing that. And he called me a couple of times, and I just wouldn't take his call because I'm like, I'm not finna do
Yeah.
that. I'm not, there's no money in that. It's in my mind. I'm thinking, I'm not doing it. And about a month or two after that, they got the deal with Motown Universal. And I wish that I was more open to the
Right.
process. I wish I was more open to the possibility of doing stuff, new technology or just different way of doing it. And at the time, I just was just so, as an artist, this is what I want to do. So what I learned with that, when people spend any money, give them what they want. Now you give them advice about what you should do, but you let them do what they want to do, because you don't want at the end of the day, especially music videos, say, well, the reason why I want successful because this is what we want to do. Give them what they
Mm-hmm.
want. You give them advice about how the process, or like, okay, if you do this, this is what's probably going to happen. But you have to be open to other things outside of what you just
Again,
want to
being
do.
flexible. Yeah.
You know, yes, you got to be flexible, and sometimes when you're young, you're in that Superman stage. Nobody can tell you nothing.
So as we wrap things up, John, what's the one message you'd like to leave with our audience today?
The one thing about life is that you need to stay focused and determined. It is so important that you really prioritize things that are important, especially with a lot of stuff that's happening today. You need to be really clear about what your direction in life is and what you're trying to do. And if you got a family, you need to be a leader to the people who are looking up to you. And if you don't got yourself together, they're not going to be together. So really staying focused on what's important and moving yourself and those people forward that's in your life. I think that'd be good advice for almost
Excellent.
anybody.
So, how can our audience connect with you and support your work? What is you told us about some of your projects? Tell us your website. Tell us a little bit about how those who are listening and watching can follow you and get to know you and get involved with the stuff that you do.
My social media across all platforms, from Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, is in every other platform. Red Note, all of them.
Red Note
Fan
already?
base is John.
I need to do
Oh
that.
yeah,
I need to get on Red
uh,
Note real quick.
it's John Wayne SIII. If you Google John Wayne SII, John Wayne S the third, all my platforms will come up. And if you go on the platform, pretty much from Snapchat to everywhere, you'll pretty much see me as that. Or you can go to my website, LondynTownPictures.com. That's LONDYN Town Pictures with an S.com.
Thank you, John. So that wraps up our incredible episode of Ingleside Reviews, Innovators Unveiled. A huge thank you to John Wayne S. III for sharing his journey and his wisdom, his passion and his storytelling and entrepreneurship with us. His insights on perseverance, creativity, and leadership are truly inspiring and is a testament to what's possible when you follow your dreams and never give up. Now, remember, whether you're pursuing a creative vision, building a business, or simply trying to make a difference in your field, the key is to stay focused, embrace the challenges, and always aim for greatness. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and rate this podcast. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories like this every week. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, keep innovating, keep creating, and never stop unveiling your inner innovator. Until next time, I'm your host, A.D. Edwards, signing off.
You've been listening to Ingleside Reviews, Innovators Unveiled. Our passion is to take you on a journey into the minds behind the most cutting-edge products hitting the market today. It's an honor to have on the show the creative geniuses shaping our future. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. Hit our website at inglesidereviews.com. On Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Ingleside Reviews. And on Twitter at Ingleside Review. See you next time.